A Kid Like Jake is about a relationship, and it's about these two parents, played by Jim Parsons and Claire Danes, who are struggling to figure out how best to support their kid, Jake, who's just, doesn't fit neatly in a box. He prefers princesses over toy trucks, and it just sort of sends them into a journey of how to be the best parents and figuring out the way to support their kid.
Now, at the beginning of the movie, you see that Jake likes The Little Mermaid, but it doesn't seem like it really dwells on it too much. Like, it just kind of seems incidental. And by the end of the movie, he's wearing a dress.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was that done on purpose?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and we spent a lot of time. I mean, I always think of this as it's not really a film about, whether Jake is going to be gay or going to be transgender. It's just really that, to support and raise a kid without shame, to not start that early on, is not easy to do, and yet so important. So it's, at first it's like this threshold moment. So Claire Danes plays Alex, and she's, taking time off from work, and she's raising her child. And they have this whole world at home that is a lot more inclusive of like role play and all of this. So she, so we meet her at this threshold where it's like it's Jake's desire to be the princess and this and that. It's a lot about being at home and playing with mom, and it's not it's not that he's like, I want to wear this every day. But as he's entering more of a public world with kindergarten, Judy, who's played by Octavia Spencer and who's in his preschool, is noticing that this is actually more of a thing because she's sort of seeing things that the mom can't. Like, I think, Claire's character has a bit tunnel vision. So, and we really left it vague. I mean, Jake could be, like I said, different for any number of reasons. And that it's not easy. This is a society where, that cherishes people being unique and standing out, but at the same time, it often punishes certain people for being different, so it's like, so it's about that and how, they sort of learn this as they move through, and it's kind of as Jake is more, as they first support it and then sort of restrict it, they understand how important it is to their kid, and that sort of comes up around Halloween and stuff, and the ways that they try to regulate, like, how he dresses. All of a sudden they care, whereas they didn't before. So, yeah.
Well, and early on, Octavia Spencer is having that conversation with Claire Danes, and she's suggesting, hey, maybe play up that he's into the traditionally female things. And when you first hear that conversation, it kind of, it doesn't seem like it may be legit. It's like,
hey, you wonder.
Yeah. And then, so you kind of look at her like, hey, she's kind of trying to game the system and what's going on here. And by the end, you're going, oh, wait a minute, she had this figured out.
Exactly. I love that that's what really drew me to the story too, because, certainly in New York, there's a competitive thing about schools, and but I'm watching my godsons who are in Los Angeles deal with schools, and what we have is a broken school system that we need to support rather than flee. And so this story just sort of starts with the number of schools that aren't supporting kids, and especially if a kid's different, they may not get the extra attention. But you're very right in that the way she presents it at first, Octavia, because they're friends, she's speaking very, informally. And I like that question is raised, and then you realize, no, she actually really sees him in a way that Claire's not. Because, I just thought it was such when I read the script, I was like, oh, that's interesting, in that it's sort of, going into the complications of, like, how each of us stand out and how that's received, and
Well, it seemed like with this movie, you guys tried to really kind of show several different sides. You went through kind of the confusion of the parents, and then raised kind of the nature versus nurture question of, if it is the mom spending all the time with the kid and is only showing him princess DVDs, like, why wouldn't that be the only thing he's into? And then, she's blaming the dad for not playing baseball with him and all that. So, it shows a lot. And it doesn't seem like, at the end of the movie that there's any kind of real, like, here's the absolute solution and here's how you do it right. It really kind of leaves things open.
Yeah, very intentionally. We were we so didn't want to wrap it up with a bow. Like, you're leaving this family at the beginning of a journey where they're like, they've said the worst things, they've fallen into the sort of blame game that can happen when bad things happen. We sort of can take it out on the people we love the most, and you're right. And it's not even that they are don't want Jake to be a certain way. It's not about that. I think it's just the fear of their kid being at risk, being targeted, having a hard time, and but then at the end, when they go to therapy and they decide to sort of address and support, that something different's going to happen. And but yeah, it's not figured out. There's no right answers, and we really tried to not be a message movie, but more ask a bunch of questions. It's confusing. It's hard to figure out. We should be engaged in a conversation that is more about the ambiguity between these, identities of like boy and girl.
Now. I don't know if I can ask this, but I mean, obviously, you have some kind of personal connection to this subject matter.
Yeah. As an out trans person, and I don't know if that was what you were going to ask. If there's more to it. Yeah, I think it really did. Although there's Jim's out as a gay man, and on our producing side, we have gay and lesbian creators who are very involved in making this story, and I love that it's got that kind of perspective, because what we're just looking at is like, no matter what configuration you are, it can be so hard to show up for people you love, kind of like what Octavia's character says at the end. But I think for me, since for me, I didn't want it to be defined as Jake is going to be trans or not. We just don't know, and to not quickly label as a person who self-identifies. I also respect people's decision to not, and to not do the same thing that people have done to me, which is to quickly put a label. And so we really tried to go into that, just looking at what it's like to leave things open a little longer and not sort of force somebody to be a certain way. And I think that for myself, being trans, maybe what it brought to it is just, not being afraid to go into the messiness of that. And even at the dinner table, when the dinner scene with Priyanka and Asif that like goes awry, and I think a lot of times people read that as him being just a jerk, and I was like, no, he's actually trying to be cool. Like, I understand when people are asking questions, they're not trying to be we should ask questions, and sometimes it's hard and sometimes it's not appropriate, but I don't want to shut down curiosity. And so I think that might be my particular take that I brought into this, and being protective of moments of humor, because I feel like any of us that live on the outside of things, humor is an absolute must, especially in the most difficult times. So that while it's not a comedy, there are moments of humor, even in the most awkward moments, that I feel like is part of something that's got authentic people. Is there's the drama and the humor, is instead of just the drama,
Now, how was that working with Jim Parsons? Because basically for the last 10 years, he's been playing a character that is incredibly awkward, can't really express emotion.
Yeah.
And he's an openly gay man. Yeah. And now in this, he's playing a loving heterosexual father. Yeah. Like, was that a challenge for him, or?
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, when I saw him at Hidden Figures, I really noticed how much he did, because it was without dialogue. He had this whole world built around these very few moments. I just thought it was so skillfully done, and I was excited to see him do this role, and that he wasn't afraid to play him. This role where he's accused of not being man enough. And I think in Hollywood it's still like such a heavy thing for a woman to play angry and for a man to play less than like, rising to the challenge. And I felt like, and his chemistry, he and Claire were just like, every time we were setting up for the next shot or in between takes, I'd look over and they would just like laugh. It was like they were in love, obviously not in that way, but they just loved each other, and they just had such a chemistry and such a care and respect for each other. I just was excited for the world to see Jim do this role, because he has so much. He's just such a skilled and compassionate, intelligent human.
What about the child actor? Because obviously this is a pretty complicated topic. Yeah. What do you say to the kid?
Well, because the movie intentionally doesn't focus on Jake so much, I had the ability to choose an actor that wasn't necessarily an actor, but who was in real life kind of felt that way. And I asked our casting director, I was like, it would be great if whoever we cast enjoys wearing a dress, for the same reason that that I don't want a boy to be shamed for wearing a dress. I don't want to put a boy in a dress who doesn't want to wear a dress at that age. Like, it just seems like, and it would be so nice for the film to have a kid who actually feels that way. It'll make all that realness, you know, will sort of remind us what we're protecting, and that it's just this innocence and joy. So Leo is very much that way in life. You know, we used his clothes, but he has even more, because our Jake doesn't wear as many dresses. He has so many amazing outfits, and he's been that way since he was 2. He's now 6, and you know, he has an array of outfits, but his parents are really supportive, and he has had challenges. His parents have had challenges by the teachers, you know, at schools, not the kids so much. But he's very sure of who he is, and that was really a gift, you know, and I'm so glad that I requested us to look for that, and that our casting director found Leo, and that he and his family have been. He was going to come out for this screening, but he got a cold, so he couldn't. But he really enjoyed it. He brought so much. There was a moment in the movie where a line got cut, but it was about, you know, Jake was supposed to say, "Am I a mistake?" And I remembered Leo turned to the camera and was like, "That's impossible. How could I be a mistake?" I mean, you know, he just like broke it down of like, you know, criminals make mistakes or you know, but I'm not a mistake, I'm a person, you know, and it was really, I don't know, he was really amazing. So, yeah. So I didn't have to, he explained to us as much as we explained to him what it was about.
What else do people need to know about this movie? I mean, what should they take away from this, I guess?
They should go see it in the theater in June. I would just hope that they leave feeling better about, you know, any kind of struggle it takes to sort of care for the people around us, and you know, just like, you know, be okay to have questions and doubts and make mistakes and get to the other side. I just think that I love that part of the film, and so I hope that they take away that sort of compassion from for our couple in the film.
Please make sure to like and share this video, as well as subscribe to my channel. It's the little ball in the bottom left corner of the video. All those things bring up the amount of hits, which makes it possible for me to put more videos together for you. Also, let me know what you think of everything by leaving a comment. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you later.